Here we go. I want to talk to you about one of my favorite experiences in Israel. I've been hearing a lot of them, and you'll see it on the screen here in the next picture. We hiked a lot of mountains. You heard a lot about that. A lot of mountains. And what he would do in between the mountains is we would walk between one mountain to another oftentimes. So normal people would get in a bus and drive. We do that sometimes. But oftentimes he would just say, okay, come follow me. And we'd climb a mountain, we'd get down to the mountain, and we'd start just walking. And we went through a lot of fields. Here's one of the fields we went through. And so we're walking through this field. This field represents to me one of the highlights of the trip. An RVL, especially if you had Mr. Davis, you're going to be like, whoa, your mind's going to be blown on this one, right? RVL, the one and only, RVL, right? We're following him, being covered in this dust because we're following so closely. And in this field, we're sitting there, and we're walking through this field, and it's owned by a Muslim man. And he's greeting us, he's waving to us, saying hello. And I'm sitting next to Mr. Davis, he's like, get my water. I'm like, please, come on. He's like, get my water. I grab his water out of his pack, and I hand it to him. He runs across the field to the owner of the field to hand him his bottle of water. Right? Pretty awesome. Now it was Ramadan, so the guy couldn't drink anything. So sorry, I can't. But RBL at the end of the trip, we're sitting there together, the guys from Charlotte Christian, and RBL at the end of the trip says, my highlight of the trip was to watch Mr. Davis run across that field and hand the man his bottle of water. So I just gave Mr. Davis a big swat on the bottom for that one. Good job there to represent us well. And part of what we've learned, hopefully you see this, when one member of the Beitav, when one member of the family does well, I felt like RBL was talking to Mr. Davis, but also it was about me too. Because Mr. Davis was doing that representing us. See how it works? So that was powerful. But we're in this field, and I'm sitting there, and I'm an Old Testament guy, and I'm sitting there in this field, and notice how part of it's still there, right? It's all gone, but part of it's still remaining. I said, RVL, is this because, just like in the Old Testament, it says, leave the corner of your fields. Leave the corner of your fields there for the widows and those in need so they can come and get food. It was a law in the Old Testament. And remember, we learned a lot about this. We learned a lot about what Israel was supposed to be. Right? They were to be there for other people, to protect those in need, to take care of them. And so God put these laws in place. Leave the corner of your fields. I was like, is this like in the book of Ruth? They left the corner of the field? So he's like, no, a Muslim owns this field. They don't follow that practice. But he's like, let's talk about Ruth. And so he started sharing stories about Ruth. And he went to Ruth chapter 3. If you have your Bibles, you can turn there. If not, just pay attention. Ruth chapter 3. It's a little scandalous. Ruth is this Moabite woman. She marries an Israelite man. Her husband, he dies. And Ruth is faced with this dilemma. Am I going to stay with my mother-in-law and go back to Israel, this foreign land I don't know anything about? And by the way, Israelites hate Moabites. Am I going to go back to this foreign land I don't know much about, where I know no one except for my mother-in-law, and I'm a Moabite and I know they don't like me? Am I going to do that or not? And she decides to do it, which is pretty amazing. And so she decides to go back to this land, and again, her mother-in-law, her husband died, her sons died. In that culture, that meant they were the lowest of the low. They were very weak and very vulnerable. Ruth was young enough, she probably could have sold herself as a prostitute to live. Naomi was too old to do that, so she was just going to be a beggar. She had to rely on the help of others, and if she didn't get the help, she was gone. And so they go back, and Ruth goes gleaning in the fields, and she meets this man named Boaz. And Boaz notices her. And Boaz says, keep her safe. Look out for her. And she's gleaning and she's working, and Boaz gives her extra food. And Naomi sees this, like, whoa, this guy is noticing you, Ruth. Something's going on here. And so Naomi says to Ruth, listen, they're threshing. They're getting the bad stuff out of the wheat so they can keep the good stuff. A lot of work, hard work. Boaz is working hard. In the evenings, he's going to be tired. He'll probably have a few cold ones after working hard all day. They'll probably lie down. He'd stay right in the threshing floor area. He'd lie there to protect the wheat, the valuables. He said, Ruth, this is what I want you to do. Shower up, put on your face, put on some nice clothes. In fact, it said the word for clothes there is a clothes that a young maiden would wear. It's implied that Ruth was still wearing clothes showing that she was mourning the loss of her husband. She said, take off your mourning clothes, put on some nice clothes. Let Boaz know you're available, you're on the market again, right? And so she goes at nighttime to the threshing floor, and Boaz is sleeping. She goes up to Boaz and says she uncovers his feet and lies at his feet. Right? Wow. A little forward there, Ruth. And so, what happens? Boaz wakes up, and he's startled. And in Ruth 3:9, Ruth speaks to him, and she says this, "Spread your wings over your servant, for you are a redeemer." What does that mean? Well, the word for wings is kanaf. Say kanaf. Good. See it on the screen, there's a definition there. It's a man-made covering of any kind, often intended to conceal or protect something. Now, next slide here, we have a picture of RBL. You guys have seen me going through the halls with this, right? So this is what he was using. He was illustrating using a prayer shawl, like a kanaf. It's a covering, right? You can cover with this, you can conceal with this. And so she took and said, hey, she took the kanaf, and she said, cover me with this. Spread your wings, spread your garment, and cover me, protect me, help me. But she was vulnerable. Right? She had nothing, and she's saying, redeem me. Essentially, in modern day language, she's saying this, marry me. Make me your wife. I want to be yours. I want you to be my husband. I want to be your wife. I want to enter into this relationship with you so that you can protect me, that you can take care of me, that you can provide for me. That's pretty forward. It's a pretty bold thing. But see, Ruth knew something. She knew a little bit something about the Israelites. See, in Exodus 19, when God went and delivered them and saved them from slavery, right? For 400 years they were enslaved. They felt like no one cared about them. And as the time went on in slavery, things became worse and worse and worse and worse for them. And then God goes and raises up Moses and goes and saves them and delivers them. In Exodus 19, he says this, you yourself have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Remember what Ruth said to Boaz? Spread your wings. Enough. God's reminding Israel, when I saved you, I did what? Brought you on my wings, my kanaf. And I brought you to myself. You know what that language is? Brought you to myself. That's the language of marriage in the Bible. When a man wanted to marry a woman, he'd make an arrangement, talk to her dad. Still do that, guys. You want to marry a young lady, talk to the dad, get permission. Okay? Talk to the dad. He'd go back, get things ready at his house. His Beit Hal would get things ready. Then when it was time, he would go to get his bride. And he'd go to his bride's Beit Hal, and they'd see the groom coming. And they'd start to celebrate, and she would come out and get herself ready, and her friends would come out with her, and he would literally take her. Oftentimes he'd pick her up and start carrying her back to his Beit Hal. And God's saying, I kanaf, I carried you to bring you to myself. Why? Because Israel, you are going to be my bride. I am going to be your husband. I am going to protect you. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to provide for you. I'm going to make you my wife. That's pretty powerful language, right? That's as intimate as you can get, the language God is using there. And he says in verse 5, now therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all peoples. Think about it, a group of slaves. No one cared about them. No one cared about them. God's saying, no, I care about you. I want you to be my wife. I love you so much. I want to marry you. I don't see you as a slave. I see you as my treasured possession. There's nothing more important to me than this. So as Ruth approaches Boaz, it says the same thing. Boaz, marry me. Redeem me. Protect me. Cover me. Look out for me. As she's saying this, she knows the history of Israel. Remember, look at the pictures. Right? She knew that Israel was called to be city gates. Where people around, if enemies were coming, where would they go? City gates. If you were a refugee traveling, you had no place else to go. Where could you go to get refreshment? City gates. Where would you go if you wanted to meet with God and encounter God? City gates. She knew that. She knew when she had heard about the fact that, hey, they were broom trees. Israel is supposed to be a broom tree to me. I'm in need. I'm going through a desert. Israel can give me that shade I need. And she's asking them, let me be part of your good talk. Bring me a poor widow Moabite woman into your family. Pretty powerful stuff. Now, the cool thing was, as RBL was talking about this, we were traveling through and we went to a synagogue. We went to the synagogue in Nazareth. You guys know why that would be important? Who was from Nazareth? Jesus. It was his home synagogue. We went to Jesus' home synagogue. That was pretty cool. Right? We walked by the mikvah where Jesus would have done it. We went into a synagogue, and there we were. And as we were in there, and RBL was teaching us, this happened. Look at this. A group of Jewish people came in, and they took their kanafs, and men were holding them over, and a Jewish couple renewed their wedding vows in front of us. It was the coolest thing in the world. And why would they do this? Why would they hold this? The best men would hold this over the bridegroom. Why? What does this symbolize? God and his relationship to Israel. Just like God brought Israel to himself to be his bride, when Jewish people get married, they do this to symbolize what? Woman, you're going to be my wife. And just like God has provided for us, I will provide for you. Just like God has loved us as Israel, I will love you. And we watch us do this, and then they celebrate, and we get to sing like songs with them and stuff. And I don't know what we were singing. I really don't. I hope I wasn't swearing or mispronouncing things as I was joining in. But it was just such a cool moment. Now again, going back to the story of Ruth and Boaz, right? She asks, will you marry me? Okay? That's bold. And guess what happens? It's awesome. Ruth 3:11. He responds, and now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all that you ask. He said yes. Right? Cover me, protect me, look out for me, take care of me, redeem me. God says, yes. All that you ask, all that you're seeking for, I will do for you. Now, RBL was talking about this. He was saying, on the edge of garments that they would wear, there'd be tassels. You probably noticed me around the hall wearing a tassel. Right? At Sinai, when God brought Israel to him at Mount Sinai, they began to wear those as a sign that they are in a relationship with God. It's a sign of their commitment and covenant they made with God. So again, as Ruth is saying, cover me with your garment, there's this tassel. And she's saying, remember, be an Israelite. Be a child of God. Be my city gate. Be my broom tree. Boaz says, I will. I will do that for you. And RBL said, essentially what he's saying is this: my obedience will be your protection. My obedience to God, my commitment to God, Ruth, will be your protection. And we were sitting there in the synagogue at Nazareth, and get the next slide here, Eric. This is Jesus' home synagogue right there. We're sitting in this synagogue, and it was just so powerful, right? I mean, I wanted to go to Israel to see lots of things, but to know, hey, you're talking about walking in the steps of Jesus, this is it. And so we're sitting around in the synagogue, and RBL comes in, and he says, Jesus went to his hometown once in Luke chapter 4. He comes in, he's the honored guest in his hometown, he returned. They hand him the scroll of Isaiah, and he opens it up. He says this: the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. Jesus read it, he closed the scroll, he looked at the audience, people he grew up with, people who knew him his whole life. He said, "This has been fulfilled in your hearing today." And they were amazed. You know why they were amazed? Did you hear what I said he was going to do? The Spirit of the Lord was on him to what? Proclaim good news to the poor, proclaim liberty to the captives, recovery of sight to the blind, to free those who are oppressed. What is that? What have we been learning about all week? Shalom. He's saying what? I have come to finally bring you the shalom you've been looking for. I'm the one it comes through. If you want shalom through God, it's through me, Jesus said. Things are broken, I will heal them. People are enslaved, I will free them. You see that? And at first, they marveled. But then they said, yeah, but isn't he Joseph's son? He's just one of us. He can't really do that. And then Jesus begins to rebuke them. He says, a prophet is not, he's not honored in his hometown, is he? First you treated me like a hero, but then when I say I'm coming to bring the shalom of God, that's what you need, that's what you've been longing for, that's what you've been waiting for, and when I come to bring it to you, you don't want that? He said, that's fine. You don't want to be city gates. You're going to have all kinds of pig bones. You're not going to run the race with everything you have. You're not going to be all in. You're not going to be a Beitab. You're not going to be a broom tree. You're not going to be fulfilling your purpose for God. That's fine. I'll take this good news and this shalom to the Gentiles. And they took him to a cliff that the city was built on, and they were going to throw him off the cliff. And I was standing there hearing all this, and I was just like overwhelmed. I was like, oh. I'm picturing this in my scene. I'm seeing cliffs. I'm like, is that the cliff? But as I'm sitting there, I start thinking about Ruth again. And it's like the Lord impressed upon my heart this. He said, Jeremy, don't you know, just like he offered his hometown in Nazareth, don't you know, Jeremy, just like for the Nazareths, just like for Israelite, just for the Gentiles, just for you, don't you know that my obedience has been your protection? I've come to bring you shalom. Why can Jesus bring us shalom? He is the only one who's ever lived without any pig bones in his life. No sin. He's the only one who was completely running the race nonstop. He's the only Israelite to ever do it. And he's saying, my perfect obedience to my Father and his will and his desire and his commands has brought you protection. That's what Mr. Brady talked about. Right? All the way back in Genesis, what could Abraham bring to the table? Nothing. And God makes his covenant with Abraham, cuts the animals in half, and normally Abraham's supposed to walk through saying, yeah, I'll do my end of the deal. Abraham's off to the side drooling, sleeping, because he can't do anything. Way back in Genesis, Jesus is like, I got this for you, Abraham. And he walks through the blood. He walks through the dead animals. And what that symbolizes, guys, is this. If you don't keep your end of the deal, we're entering this covenant relationship, this marriage between God and Israel. And if you are unfaithful to me, those animals, that represents you. And God says, if I'm unfaithful to you, same thing. I deserve that. Guess what? God's never going to be unfaithful, right? And so Jesus walked through on Abraham's behalf, knowing full well Abraham was already unfaithful. And the Son of God came to earth knowing full well, I'm coming to earth to live a perfect life just to die. I'm not going to do anything wrong. And they're going to treat me like a criminal. They're going to strip me naked. They're going to beat me to a bloody pulp. They're going to nail me to a tree and mock me as I die. And he's saying, I'm doing that because I love my Father. I'm going to obey my Father. And by doing that, my obedience is going to be your protection. I'm sitting in Nazareth, and Jesus is telling me, I went through all that to protect you, to redeem you, to provide for you, and to offer you shalom. I was blown away. Right, I've heard that message so many times. But just to hear it again and just to understand that, to see that, and to recognize again what God has done for me. I love you so much. I want you to be my treasured possession. I want to bring you to myself. So I will come down to you and I will die for you. I will be all in. I will give it my all for you. And I'm sitting there like, wow. And I'm like, God, help me not to be like the people in the synagogue when you first came and proclaimed this. At first they're like, that's pretty cool. But then they questioned him, they doubted, and then they wanted to kill him. Later on, Jesus is getting ready to go to Jerusalem. This is the capital. Nazareth, a little podunk town. Who cares about Nazareth, right? Let's go to the capital. Let's go to Jerusalem. And he's going to Jerusalem, and what does he say in Matthew 23? Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stone those who are sent to it. How often would I have gathered your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings? What's the word for wings? Enough. Jesus is saying what to Jerusalem? I wanted to bring you to me. I wanted to cover you. I wanted to protect you. I wanted to give you shalom. I wanted to. Well, what does it tell us? And you are not willing. Jesus is getting down on one knee saying, will you marry me? There's no better guy than Jesus, right? It's perfect. You're like, I don't really like the ring. No, thanks. Right? I mean, can you believe it? And so my thing is this, and I know Mr. Brady talked about this, but I just want to challenge you one more time. Jesus is offering you this. He loves you so much. He was all in for you. He wants to cover you with his kanaf, to give you protection and to redeem you and all these things. Are you willing? His perfect obedience to God's law makes this all available to you. Are you willing? Are you willing? As we leave Windy Gap, I hope it's been a very meaningful time for you, but as we get ready to leave, I want you to be asking yourself, am I willing? And some of you are like, yes, I am. Some of you made that commitment. Some of you did mikvah last night saying, yes, I am willing. I'm on the right path. I want to be all in. I want to be following after Jesus. I want to grow each and every day. And that's awesome, and I'm so encouraged by that. But really, mikvah is a daily thing you do in your heart. Right? You don't have to go in water to do it. Every morning when you wake up, you should do it. That's why I've been wearing this, right? Every morning I go and I put this on. Well, I'm not Jewish. My wife's like, are you Jewish? What's going on? I'm like, no. No, right? Why? Because I want to be reminded that God's perfect obedience is my protection. And when I put this on, I'm saying to my wife, honey, my obedience to God's law, my obedience to Jesus is going to be your protection. Every day I want to be a better husband to you. Every day I want you to know I love you more. Right? For my 6 kids, a little army of kids, you see 4 of them in the halls every morning, right? Right, my precious little kids. I want them to see this and say, hey, listen. Because Jesus' perfect obedience, this guy right here, your daddy, I'm going to love you. Everything you got. You guys are my treasure possessions. best dad I can be. Right? For you guys. When I get to Charlotte Christian School, I want you as students to know that your spiritual life director and your Old Testament Bible teacher loves you, and I want to obey God and live all for Him. So hopefully that can offer you protection and safety. Right? That's why I do it. And my question is, what are you going to do? There's two stories, there's two characters that I think illustrate this. I'm going to tell it real quick. You guys have been really good. I do appreciate that. One character is King Saul. Here's King Saul, king of Israel, supposed to lead the people. And he's chasing after David, who did nothing wrong. He's just jealous of David. His jealousy is causing him to go crazy. He's chasing and hunting down David. David's hiding in caves, hiding for his life. Right? And God's already anointed David and said, David, you're going to be the next king of Israel. But right now, he's hiding, and he's going through the deserts, and he's going through a really tough time. And at one time, Saul goes into a cave. In Israel, there's caves everywhere. It's amazing how many caves there are. But he goes into a cave to go to the bathroom. Pretty cool story, right? It's like, Saul goes in the cave to, do number 2. And he's sitting there, getting ready to go to number 2, and David's men are like, David, this is it. God has delivered him into your hands. Kill him. And the natural response would be what? Kill him. We don't have to hide anymore. We can be done with the desert stuff. You can finally be king. And it says that David stealthily snuck over. And he just cut off the edge of his garment. And the edge of his garment would have had this. It would have had a tassel. It would have had a symbol of his covenant relationship with God. This would have been Saul's reminder that he was in covenant relationship with God, and as Saul, the king of Israel, he should be obedient to God. He should be leading Israel in worship of God. That Saul's obedience to God should be Israel's protection. And David cut that off. And Saul leaves the cave, walks out, doesn't even notice. And one thing I'll say about wearing this for a while, you notice it. It flops and hits your hand. You sit down, you sit on, you're like, oh, it gets caught on things. It's kind of annoying at times, but you notice it. And Saul didn't notice. And so David was inside the cave, and David was convicted that he went and cut this off Saul's garment. Here's a guy who could have killed him, and all he did was cut this off, and he's like, I can't believe I did that to the king. How could I do that to the king? And he comes running out, and he's holding it up, right? He's holding it up and saying, Saul, I'm your servant David. I'm sorry I did this to you. And Saul realizes, right? He didn't even realize this was gone. His symbol of his relationship with God was gone. He didn't even realize it. He said, David, you are much more righteous than I. Now again, why do I tell that story? I don't want you to be a Saul. I don't want you to be a Saul. I don't want you to be that person who just forgets about your relationship with God, and forgets about following after Him, and forgets about being obedient to Him. I don't want you to be that person. That if something happens in your life that cuts you off from God, you're going to say, oh my goodness, what happened? God, things aren't right anymore. I need to make things right. I need to do a mikvah right here and now, wherever I am, to make things right with you, to get on your path again. I don't want you to be like Saul and have this gone and not even know. Now this is what I want you to be like. In Luke 8, there's a woman. It says for 12 years she had this bleeding problem. And she was bent over, hunched over. And the Old Testament law says she would be unclean. She wouldn't be able to be a part of culture and society as a whole. She was marginalized and rejected because of this. And it said she spent all of her wealth, everything she had, on doctors and trying to get the cure and trying to get healed, and nothing worked. It just got worse and worse. And Jesus is coming by. He's walking by, and all the crowds are coming around, and he's doing what? Bringing shalom. He's casting out demons and healing people and recovering his sight, and all these things are happening. He's bringing shalom. And he's walking by, and she says to herself, if I can just reach out and touch the fringe of his garment. Right? If I can just reach out and touch the edge of his kanaf. If I can just reach out and touch his tassel, which represents his relationship with God and his obedience to God, if I can touch that, I can be made well. And through the crowd she goes, and she's punched over, and she reaches out as he goes by and touches it. It says instantly she's healed. Instantly, after 12 years of suffering, gone, and she's healed, and she's made whole and complete. Instead of being hunched over, she can stand up straight. She has experienced shalom like that. And Jesus says, someone touched me. Peter's like, oh, lots of people are touching you right now. This is what happens. You're kind of going through the crowd, and there's lots of people touching you. He's like, no, someone touched me. Power went out from me. And what does it say? This woman came forward. And she threw herself on the ground before him. Now think about this. I think this is amazing, right? She's bent over for 12 years. Bent over for 12 years. And she's made whole. And what's the first thing she does? Bends over again. As an act of submission. Jesus, you brought me shalom. You made me well. She humbles herself before him. And she proclaims to the crowd what happened. What does Jesus say to her? It's probably on the screen, isn't it? And he said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Go in shalom. So again, guys, you've been so good, probably not too long, but I just want to remind you this. Jesus' perfect obedience to the Father, just like Boaz's obedience to God, brings you protection. It brings you safety. And he desires more than anything to cover you with his wings, to bring you to himself. Here's the thing. One, are you willing? Are you willing to be all in? Some of you still haven't made that commitment. Don't leave here without doing that. God's offering it. Are you willing? Two, some of you are like, yes, I am willing. Then be like that woman. Be like that woman. Keep living in faith. Keep trusting and obeying. Even when you're healed, what does she do? Bends back over again. This time she's doing it what? Not out of sickness, right? Out of what? Love. Lovingly continue to submit to God, to seek to live for him. Don't be like Saul and just forget about it. Don't be like Saul who should know better and just forget about it. Okay? Guys, can I pray for you? Freshmen have been experiencing this, going along with the idea of the kanaf and the covering. In the Old Testament, the Levites were the priests. And they would go, and in synagogues to this day, Orthodox synagogues, if you're from the tribe of Levi, you get to go up amongst everyone else, and you get to wear this. And they're going to see this, and they're going to say, God brought our people, our ancestors. They were slaves, and he saved us. He delivered them. Why? Because he married them. Because he loved them. Because he wanted to be with them forever. And they wear this as a reminder of that. And they stand before the people, and they bless them. I'm going to do that for you. They go like this. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May he lift his countenance upon you and grant you peace. Grant you shalom. Guys, remember this. Jesus is the one who keeps you. He gives you life. Every day when you're alive, every day when you wake up, it says Jesus is keeping you. Jesus is the one who's given you grace. He was all in on the cross. You can't get grace on your own. You can't earn it. He gave it to you. And Jesus is the one who gives you shalom. Each and every day it's available to you. Continue to see. I love you. guys. Thank you so much.